Hello everyone, I hope you're all well. So this is my first video using my new camera after about a year, so hopefully it will work. And this first video is going to be a Q&A, going right back to how I started with a Q&A, trying to help answer your questions on all things tinnitus. So let's get straight into your questions. And right, okay, so the first question comes from Sammy Jr. on YouTube. Hello Sammy, and yours is an interesting question, not had one like this before. So you wrote to me and you asked, "Hi Aid, I have a question. I was watching a movie and one of the characters had tea. In one scene he was sitting at the bottom of a swimming pool in a meditation type pose under the water. In the next scene another character asks him what he was doing, and he says that being under the water is the only place where he can get the ringing to stop. I'm thinking of trying this, as I've never really habituated fully, or have any time where I don't have at least some amount or level of tea. I can still hear it no matter where I am during the day. Even when it's low, I can still hear it. So do you think that an underwater meditation is a good idea for me? I do go swimming at my local pool, and I will swim under the water sometimes, but only close to the surface. What's your opinion?" Oh, and one other question I will answer. Someone asked me, have I got a new chair? No, I've still got the same old squeaky chair, okay, as you're probably going to hear in this video. Anyway, what's your opinion on this sustained underwater method to relieve tea? I haven't tried it at all yet, as I wanted your opinion. Cheers. Right, so okay, interesting. I actually think I've seen the film you're talking about. If I've got it right, you're talking about a series. It wasn't a film, it was a series called the OA from years ago, and it's the scientist, if I remember, it's the scientist is the guy with the tinnitus. And I remember the scene with the pool, because I remember thinking about it when I saw it, where he says he only escapes the ringing when he's underwater. Right, regardless, do I think it's a good idea? No, definitely not. It's not a good idea to sit at the bottom of a swimming pool, regardless if you have tinnitus or not. It's all kinds of a bad idea. I'm just looking at some of the other things you wrote to me about. I'll get onto them later. I understand the concept in that being underwater would shroud the noise. Okay, so I get that. But actually the reality is that being underwater will most likely make your tinnitus worse, and will probably cause it to rise in volume and increase, if anything. Firstly, you're going to have water going into your ears, so water flooding into your ears, which can cause pressure within your ear. And second, if you're sitting at the bottom of a pool, I presume it's going to have to be quite deep water. Okay, so again, there's going to be pressure in your ears, but also just pressure from the water pressure itself, affecting your brain, and you're also holding your breath, which in my opinion will cause stress to you, which isn't good. So my opinion is that being underwater with water flooding into your ears is just a really bad idea all over the place. I'd go further and say that although, how do I put this? Although swimming can be relaxing and therapeutic, I go swimming, okay? When you're swimming, I would be careful to not get a lot of water in your ears, and I'd advise against swimming underwater altogether, right? As it can cause you problems. I used to swim underwater, I don't anymore since tinnitus, because I found it caused me problems. So don't do it. I don't actually see how you could sit at the bottom of a pool meditating anyway, as you'd have to be weighted down, wouldn't you? If you're going to be sitting there in some meditation pose at the bottom of a pool like this guy did in this film, don't know how they did it in that. It's obviously some sort of Hollywood magic going on there, alright? Because you can't just dive down to the bottom of water at that depth and just sit there. You're going to rise up to the top. So you'd have to be weighted down. Either that, or you'd have to be frantically flapping your arms like some sort of penguin, okay, to keep yourself from rising back up to the surface. So unless you're from Atlantis, stay on terra firma and try grounding yourself rather than try meditating underwater. It's not a good idea. Having said that, there are methods involving water that are helpful, and I do recommend and advocate, such as simply laying in a bath with some relaxing incense candles, etc., to calm you down. That's good. But more so, I found the sound of water can be very therapeutic and calming and relaxing, such as the fountain, the water feature that I've got over there in that corner. I don't know if this microphone's going to pick it up, but I've got a water feature over there that has the sound of running and trickling water. Okay, it's just very calming. It's a calming sound to have in the background, and in the same way that raindrops are, raindrops on a window are one of the most popular methods of sound relief that people with tinnitus seem to find extremely helpful. I love the sound of a storm at night and the rain on the windows. Okay, so in that way, they're the best water methods that I think can be helpful. But sitting at the bottom of a swimming pool, no, don't do it. That's my advice. I hope that answers your question. Right, so the next question comes from an email. You sent me one on YouTube and you sent me one via email, and the question comes from the Void. Hello, Void. And also I was asked a similar question. I had a similar question from my friend Ross Miller, who I've spoken to a lot and been trying to help. So hopefully my answer will answer both of your questions. So, Void, the Void. You wrote, "Dear Mr. Aid, my question is about at what point should we stop trying to cure ourselves of tinnitus? At what point should we stop trying to cure ourselves of tinnitus if we have tried everything else and we still have it?" To put this into context, I've had tea for approximately 8 years. Initially it was at a level 6 to 8, so really bad, but over the last few years, following your methods and Mr. Hill's, Julian's, I have managed to get it all the way down to a 1 or 2. We're up to a level 1 or 2 where I don't really notice it, or I'm not conscious of it being there the majority of the time. but it's still there, and I do hear it sometimes. My question really relates to sometimes when I find I can hear my tinnitus, even though it's not bad, excuse me, I start to keep running thoughts through my mind of why I'm not cured yet, and I find myself still scouring the internet for the latest on tea cures, and then I feel bad for doing this. Right. I know you talk about being content during the time you're not hearing it, and to not keep reaching for a cure. So really my question is, should I accept that where I am now is the best I'm going to be and be happy with that? I feel I'm at a deciding point whether to just accept my tea as it is, or should I continue to strive for complete silence? My other question is, what do you think of the new Susan Shaw video about her device? Will it work? Thanks for your help. So I think I've got this, I think I understand this, what you're trying to ask me. So, again, interesting questions. And you, Void, I'm looking back over some of my previous videos and notes. I do keep track of my subscribers' questions, or try to. You have been a contributor to many of my videos before, and always pose good questions. So the first question, at what point should we stop trying to cure ourselves? Right? Firstly, I don't like the use of the word or description of the word cure for this. I personally never state that I'm cured, because I'm not. I still have the condition, I still have tinnitus, so I never make the claim that I'm cured, right? But what I have done, and what I do claim, okay, is that I found a path from where I went from a level 8 and higher to a place where the majority of the time my tinnitus is not within my conscious thought. I don't hear it, right? That doesn't mean I'm cured, okay? So although I tell you I don't hear it, and I don't hear it the majority of the time at all, it's not within my conscious thought, that does not mean I am cured, okay? So how do I know this? Because I still can hear it sometimes, albeit at a low level 1 or 2, and occasionally, though I can't remember the last time this did happen, I still can, it's possible, let's put it that way, it's still possible for me to experience a spike in volume for whatever reason, alright, but the majority of time I don't hear it. So when you've heard me, Void, when you hear me, when I speak about people getting better and recovering from tinnitus, I much prefer to say that it's possible to heal ourselves and recover to a place where tinnitus no longer affects, impacts, or restricts our lives, and that you can heal yourself to where you're not even conscious of the sound. So that's what I mean when I say heal and recovery. I'm not talking about cure. I don't like the word cure, okay? But that's what I mean. By following a path to recovery, what I would say is once you get to this place, then to me, that is contentment enough, rather than continue to grasp and reach in dissatisfaction, frustration and anxiety for a complete and total cure, and in that way you're probably continuously disappointed, all right? As reaching, how can I put this? As reaching for a complete, this is what it sounds like you're trying to do. You're trying to reach and trying to continue to strive for a complete, total, 100% removal of the condition. And I believe this in truth to be extremely rare in reality. It does happen. There are people that it has happened to, completely cured. It does happen, yes, okay. But in my experience, it's extremely rare and it's unlikely. And as I say, in my view, it is a minority that achieve total, absolute 100% status of being completely cured of tinnitus. Which leads me to your question. Alright? When should we stop trying to cure ourselves if we have tried everything but still have tinnitus? It's important to address this question, and I'm glad you have asked it, because this thought process that you're finding yourself, that you're putting yourself through, is a common one. So you're not the first to really have this issue. All right, both you and Ross both seem to be going through the same, running these thoughts through your mind. It's a common one within the tinnitus community. The frustration of, I want a cure. Why am I not cured? Will I ever be cured? And this thought process, although I fully understand it, and why you would have these thoughts, is not, in my opinion, helpful to you, and will, ironically, hold you back from making further progress in your path to recovery. You have stated, Void, that you have managed to find a path where you were a level 6 to 8, a high level 6 to 8 you've written, to where you are now, which is a low level 1 or 2, where you don't notice it or hear it the majority of the time, right? So that's important. So you've put in considerable work over the past 8 years with your tinnitus, and you have been able to get to where you are now. Aside from outside stress caused by forces and people beyond your control, which none of us can, sometimes accommodate, right? I would suggest that aside from that, the times that when you don't hear it or have an increase in volume, let me put it a different way. Yeah, let me reverse it. Let me put it a different way to you. This will make more sense. I would suggest that the times when you do hear it, right, when you do hear it or have an increase in volume, will have been induced by your thought process, in that you're causing yourself mental anguish and anger and frustration by keep beating yourself up that you have not been able to rid yourself utterly and completely of your tinnitus. And this means by doing this, you're not allowing yourself to be content and happy that you've reached the place where the majority of the time you don't hear your tinnitus. Alright? So that's what you should, and in my opinion, need to start making your mindset. Be content of where you are now and stop self-sabotaging your progress, right? Your progress to being content and at peace with where you are. It all sounds very zen, but this is my opinion. This is what I believe. Now, further to this, if you start to adopt this more positive mindset of contentment, you will find that your path to recovery will, I'm confident, continue to improve further. And because you're not causing yourself stress and frustration, which will hinder any further healing and recovery that you could make. So my advice to you, Boyd, and also to a lesser degree, but also to you, Ross, is I don't think you need to ever stop. I don't think you ever need to stop on a path to recovery. Okay, you don't ever need to stop being on a path to further healing and recovery. But I do think you need to stop causing yourself stress and frustration by filling your head with thoughts of, I'm not going to allow myself to be happy and content until I've completely 100% absolutely 100% rid myself totally and utterly of this tinnitus, and until I do that, until I'm completely rid of it, I'm going to batter my brain in a quest for the cure, right? That you need to stop doing. It's pointless. Okay, it's much better to be content and happy, that you're able to live your life without hearing your tinnitus the majority of the time, and even when you do, you say it's at a low level. So if you can adopt this mindset of being content of where you've got to and where you are, you will find that you actually continue to improve. Subconsciously it will be happening ever more towards peace of mind. Alright, so that's my advice. We don't ever need to stop on our path to healing and recovery, but I do think it is pointless to keep grasping and reaching for this holy grail of a complete 100% cure. Alright, I think it's pointless. That's my opinion, that's my experience. Okay, so I hope that is I hope that answers the question. I hope it's helpful. Alright. Your second question, Void. The Susan Shaw device. I don't have any real substantial knowledge to speak on this, or give an opinion on it, so I'm not going to. I haven't looked into it. I don't know anything really about it. I've got a couple of things on here that I'm looking at. There's a few other tinnitus channels that have made videos on it, but I've not really looked into it. So today I'm not going to speak on it. Alright. Having said that, I will now investigate this further and I will address it with my opinion on it in my next video. And the next video I think will be another Q&A, or it may just be about this Susan Shaw device, depending on what I find out about it and whether I think it's, you know, the holy grail. Okay, that's it for this first video with this new camera. Again, thank you all for your continued support. Best wishes to you and goodbye.